Brad Sorenson is the founder and the CEO of Providence Therapeutics. Now, they say, a potential response to the supply challenge. They say Calgary-based company is just launching their trials now of what is an mRNA vaccine that's similar to the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines. It's obviously, Mr. Sorenson, good to have you on the program. This is important. This could be, first of all, the government said we don't have the capacity to produce that style of vaccine here. You say you do. When did you tell the government, and did they give you enough money to expedite a made-in-Canada solution?
We communicated to the government in March of 2020 that we had the capacity to make messenger RNA vaccines, and that we had already designed a COVID vaccine, the same vaccine that entered into the clinic this past week. We formally went into the process of applying for support through the CIF ICED program in April. We were told we were going to receive a reply where they shortlisted within 2 weeks. We did not receive a reply until late August. It was the day before they prorogued Parliament that we were then bumped back down from ICED and CIF to the NRC. And it was shortly thereafter we received $4.7 million of funding from the NRC.
Now, that sounds like a lot, but given the scope here, that's not a lot. If you had received a quicker response or more money, could your vaccine, and again, it hasn't been tested, folks, I don't want to create false hope, it's got to go through the clinical trials, could you have been moving faster, and could your potential solution have come online quicker?
In March, we were 2 months behind Moderna.
And where are you now?
We were just started our phase 1 trial last week.
So you wouldn't get those through, if it all goes well, till August. Emily, remember, and Bob referenced this, it was in the Montreal lab where they first tried to work with CanSino, the Chinese potential partner, which that didn't work out. The Chinese wouldn't even send the samples. So maybe there was a made-in-Canada solution that Canadians should have been more aware of and should have been funded better, Emily.
Yeah, I remember this interview as well. There seems to be an issue where when there could be Canadian funded or science that could be a solution to the pandemic, it's more slow than it should be. It's also a story that came up when we're discussing emergency preparedness in terms of pandemic at Global Health Canada, how that program had been cut down. And so there just seems to be a overall lack of, planning when it comes to our own, capacity. And that's what creates this whole issue of dependency on what others are producing internationally, definitely. And so I think perhaps when we have a little bit more, breadth and have been vaccinated, that's probably going to be one of the stories to kind of dig in more, like what could have been done better here locally as well.
This is a fascinating story, and again, there was no guarantee any vaccine was going to work, but let me go back to Parent Beatty. When you hear Mr. Sorenson said, we applied, it's mRNA vaccine, it's the same platform as the Moderna, it's the same platform as the Pfizer, yet they got a pittance of the funding. What does that tell you?
It tells me the fundamental question here is how we as Canadians see our pharmaceutical sector. Now, is it a matter of national security for Canadians to have a domestic pharmaceutical industry and to ensure that pharmaceutical research is done and that we have the capacity to produce vaccines in Canada? Up until now, it doesn't appear to have been. Perhaps as a result of COVID, we'll reassess those priorities.
Bob Fife, when you talked about domestic production, here we literally have a CEO of a company that says, we can do it. We're already in clinical trials. We weren't far behind Moderna back in March, April, August. What does that tell you, Bob Fife?
Well, look, the government has been throwing money out the door like it's no tomorrow. But when it comes to trying to help Canadian companies to create a manufacturing base for vaccines, they're giving them very little money. They're very slow off the mark. And this is a failure of leadership. And what we need, I hope, at the end, when we ever get out of this pandemic nightmare, is that we have a royal commission that looks at what went wrong and what went right. because these kind of pandemics are probably going to be something we're going to see a lot more, not every 100 years. And we need to be better prepared for that. We need to have our own manufacturing facilities and research facilities for vaccines, and we need to make sure we have, the PPEs for this sort of stuff. We need to be better prepared, and we certainly were not prepared for this.
Mr. Sorenson, when you have been hearing for months that the government said, look, we don't even have the capacity to produce the kind of Moderna or Pfizer vaccines, the mRNA, we only have maybe the AstraZeneca. There you guys were working quietly in Calgary. What were you thinking? Were you thinking, hello, over here, we do have the capacity?
The president of Providence Therapeutics, his name is Jared Davis. He was at Alexion when Alexion was partnered with Moderna. His role was to do all of the manufacturing. We literally have the worldwide experts in Canada dedicated to this, and we're moving forward. Eventually the Canadian government will recognize this, but we have the capacity to do this. We have the talent to do this, and there's no question about it. I reached out to the NRC. They're funding our phase 1 trial. I say, guys, we're going into phase 2, phase 3. We got to scale up for production. And I said, I understand you've got a facility that was retrofitted in Montreal that's being underutilized right now. The tenant that was going to come in there isn't coming in there. And we're all aware of that facility. I said, we'd be happy to tech transfer and put in our formulation and fill finish into that facility. They arranged a call. We had the call. We're told, no, we're not interested. We're not going to talk to you about it. I don't know what else to say, guys. We are continuing to move forward. We're continuing to build our own capacity. But if engaging with the federal government is part of that solution, it's not working.
It's not where, and just I know I only got 10 seconds, but some people might say, how do you know your vaccine candidate is going to work? Maybe Health Canada said, sorry, it sounds good, but we've got better candidates. What would you say to that?
Well, Health Canada just approved our clinical trial. They've seen all our preclinical data. It's equivalent or superior to both BioNTech and Moderna. And we actually hold all of the legitimate licenses to do what we're doing. We have freedom to operate. So the delivery technology we use in our vaccine, we've licensed from Genevant, which is a Vancouver company, which is currently in the process of litigating Moderna because Moderna is treading on their IP.
It's incredible.
I don't know.
Here it is.
We've got a Canadian solution. We've sourced it. We've done it. We've followed the rules. We've done what we're supposed to do, and we're not getting engagement from the government.